for that. Well, we just briefly mentioned the subject of Nobel Peace Prize again, because according to the Ukrainian World Congress article, Zelenskyy is in with a chance. Well, is he? If we have a look at the article itself, he's amongst the 2023 Nobel Peace Prize candidates. He is amongst the bookmakers' favourites, but his victory is unlikely, experts say. I find this interesting because, of course, bookies are very clever people when it comes to odds, but apparently there are journalists saying he's not going to make it. So what's the reality of the war in Ukraine? Well, I'm just going to use this clip by Senator Josh Hawley to make a statement about what's been happening in the background, and then we'll do a brief summary.
How was the meeting with Zelenskyy, and did it change your mind at all?
Well, no. I mean, what the meeting revealed to me is that in the words of President Zelenskyy, the conflict is a total stalemate. That's what he said. Totally frozen, I believe, was what his words were, which is also what the administration told us yesterday. The administration told us yesterday they want to spend $100 billion more, our money, more, over the next year in the hopes that it will remain a stalemate. Which leads me to ask, what is the goal here for the United States? I mean, what is it this administration wants to do? I have no earthly idea. They used to say victory, victory, victory. Now it's stalemate forever. In fact, yesterday Milley said there will be no military victory. Okay, well, so what are we doing? I have no idea.
So that was a pretty heartfelt clip, and it was very informative. He's saying that the American leadership have no idea what they're doing, but that the conflict is frozen. Is that actually the case? Let's do a little bit of, this is UK column comment and analysis, but it's based on a lot of very good work by many of the analysts online. So let's just have a look at this overall image. I've taken this from the Free Russia channel. I try and share the information from the various online analysts. But Mikhail, who is Russian himself, but he's basically run away from the Russian system. So he's talking as an independent person. But on his channel, he's showing another appalling image of Ukrainian armor, which is simply destroyed by anti-tank weapons the moment it gets clear of the tree line. And what is happening across Ukraine is that Ukrainians and the Russians are occupying the tree lines and fighting. But this is the big lie, that we've got a frozen conflict, because let's look at what's really happening. Basically, the Ukrainian forces are being ground down. They're being destroyed where they stand, and they have made no significant advances in the offensive. Russia has already retaken more territory than Ukraine has captured in the offensive. Although the amounts are very small, the reality is that Russia, who is on the defensive, has still taken more territory. Ukraine's armoured attacks are being decimated to the extent that they've been abandoned on many of the sections of the front because the vehicles are destroyed the moment they start to move. Ukraine's infantry attacks are suicidal and the losses are horrific. Some people are talking about 19,000 men killed in September alone. Ukraine is again short of major weapons and ammunition. That's a fact. Russia is destroying Ukrainian infrastructure now. That includes key strategic bridges and command and control centers. And Western support for Zelenskyy and Ukraine is clearly fragmenting. But the real monster in the room, the elephant in the room, is that the Russian strategic reserves are not yet even committed to this battle. So frozen conflict, no, because the Ukrainian troops are being slaughtered. But of course, NATO, the West, UK, US, BBC do not want to talk about this. Now, if we have a look about how the propaganda machine works, we're back on the Ukrainian World Congress. Here's the headline: EU from Lisbon to Luhansk, highlights of EU ministers meeting in Kyiv. And if we look at the right-hand side of the screen, you can freeze that and look at the detail. But I just wanted to pull out this statement: the European Union will soon expand from Lisbon to Luhansk. This is the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock speaking. and she stated this during an informal meeting of EU foreign ministers in Kyiv. So the European Union expanding eastward, which of course is part of the immense problems that the Russians have with this. This is part of a more detailed comment. Ukraine's future lies in the European Union and our community of freedom, and it will soon stretch from Lisbon to Luhansk. Ukraine, also broadens its path to the EU with every village, every metre that it liberates, and every metre where it saves its people, except it's not saving them from brutality and corruption, which we are seeing more and more reports about. Now, let's just compare Miss Baerbock with another lady. Let's bring her up on screen. Who have we got here? Oh, it's Mariana Spring. Well, how are these two ladies connected? Well, of course, if you look into their background, you find that they've got one common agenda. And the reality is that they've both been caught falsifying their CVs. So should we trust the German foreign minister? I would suggest not, in the same way that we shouldn't, of course, be trusting a word that the BBC say. And we'll just put a little bit of evidence on the German minister. This is Politico, one of many outlets reporting this incident. German Greens leader Baerbock under fire for resumé inflation. That means basically fiddling your CV. And this was a bit of detail. She claimed membership of the German Marshall Fund and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees amongst lesser known organisations in the CV available on her official website, and this was not true. So this gives you a bit of the backdrop of the circle of propaganda going round. But if we follow up on the Ukrainian World Congress, particularly offensive image from them, note the promotion of the gay agenda on the left of your screen, and of course a bloodied Putin on the right of your screen. Again, I'll give you the details so that you can freeze it. But basically, according to this article, Russia purposely spreads Kremlin narratives in European Union countries to undermine their desire to support Ukraine. It then says that researchers of the Romanian New Strategy Centre came to this conclusion. Specialists analyse 100 open sources in 5 European countries. Well, what is this organisation? This is the report. It's called The Clash of Tactical Narratives, Russia's Malign Influence and the Discourses of Populist Parties on the Russian-Ukraine War in Slovakia, Romania, Austria, Germany and France. And of course, if we look at the organisation, we can relax because it's non-partisan and non-governmental, so it claims. But if we delve into it and just have a look at who it's connected with, amongst universities, which we might think are relatively benign, we come on this one, the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Centre. And if we delve into that in no time at all, we find this, it's NATO, Euro-Atlantic Resilience Forum, Strengthening Societies at Sea on Land. And it says that this is the second annual Euro-Atlantic Resilience Forum. It's for a platform for subject matters from the government, business sectors, institutions and academia to share experiences. Who has put this thing together? Well, there we are. It's the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Centre. And if we get down to this comment, we find what it's really about. In support of NATO's efforts within the alliance's layered resilience concept, the forum featured discussions on global resilience, while also emphasising the importance of the Black Sea region for the transatlantic community. And so this is to do with NATO. It's also to do with the Americans. And of course, this is the reality, the power of what drives the propaganda that we're seeing circling back through Ukraine.
I just wanted to bring Grant Shapps back on screen. Brian was talking about this on Monday, I believe. He had been speaking to the Telegraph on Sunday in this article and had suggested that what was really needed was for Britain to move the training exercise from the UK to Ukraine and have British boots on the ground training Ukrainians and so on. And I just wanted to cover a little bit of the sort of response to that that we didn't cover on the news. So first of all, Rishi Sunak backtracked from it very quickly. The Independent saying Sunak insists no plan to send British troops for training in Ukraine here and now, but doesn't say anything about the future. But James Cleverly, writing in Politics Home, had this to say: if we don't stick with our support to Ukraine, if we send the signal that aggressors can prosper, then all the problems we're currently facing, those inflationary pressures on food and on fuel and political pressure that comes from having a conflict like this, they will just get worse, which is why the UK's government position is resolute. We make that point to all our international partners. This is tough and this is painful, but we'll only be more tough and more painful if we falter. So there you go. We're going to be more pain in the future, Brian, if we falter. But let's look at what other people were saying. This is a US Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're going to start World War III was her position on this, speaking about the British. But I'll leave it to Dmitry Medvedev. He's saying the number of idiots in power in NATO countries is growing. One newly minted moron, the British Secretary of State for Defence, decided to move the UK military training of Ukrainian soldiers into Ukraine. That is to turn the British military instructors into our armed forces' legal targets, while being fully aware that they will be ruthlessly eliminated, and this time not as mercenaries, but as British NATO specialists. Another fool from the Bundestag, the chairwoman of the German Defence Committee, with an unpronounceable name, is clamouring to immediately provide the Taurus missiles to enable the Kyiv regime to hit deep into Russia's territory to weaken the supply of our army. They say that it's in accordance with international law. Well, in that case, the strikes against German plants which produce these missiles will also correspond to international law. Really, these half-wits are actively pushing us to World War III. And, okay, that's come from Medvedev, but I cannot find a single thing to disagree with.
Well, that is the key point. You can't disagree with it because this is common sense comment. But we are in a country out of control, and we see in America with Biden walking into walls that we've got the United States that is out of control. And it's going to be up to the populations of both countries to do something about